One.
Oh, hey! And we're back. Welcome back to yet another episode of Singular, where we, of course, discuss Record of the Year, celebrating you and love and 1981. And of course, celebrating this February 14th, taking you back to 1981, where true love blossomed and Prince Charles and Lady Di were married. And we all know how that worked out.
Dark.
Love never
love
ends.
will prevail and never ends.
It never ends. Love will keep them together, I think.
Forever.
That's my guess on those two.
Celebrating love his way, Mr. Eric Nelson.
Hubba hubba, be mine, cute.
And of course, celebrating love in the only style he knows how and keeping us on track with our facts and figures.
Got it right.
Dr. Vincent Stevens. I'm not getting it right. It's only because
it's a love bug.
I love that love bug.
That's no love bug.
There's an ointment for that.
It is not a true love bug, but
there's an ointment for that.
That's what she said.
Anyway.
Dr. Stevens.
Yes.
Oh, I'm Susan Lombardi Verticelli.
But we know that. Everybody knows that.
Indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things about 1981 that's important is that MTV, music television, debuted in 1981. And so, all of us are of an age where we were around when MTV didn't exist. And so part of what's fascinating about many of these songs is that one's recollection of them is more about what you heard than what you saw, even though a lot of the bigger songs did eventually have music videos. So here's your top 10 of 1981. Coming in at number 10, Keep On Loving You by those Midwesterners, REO Speedwagon. Number 9, 9 to 5 by Miss Dolly Parton. Number 8, I Love a Rainy Night, Eddie Rabbitt. Number 7, Kiss on My List by Hall & Oates. Number 6, Celebration by Kool and the Gang. Number 5, Jesse's Girl by Rick Springfield. Number 4, Just Like Starting Over, John Lennon. Number 3, Lady by Kenny Rogers. Number 2, Endless Love, Lionel Richie and Diana Ross. And the number 1 song on the Billboard charts of 1981, Bette Davis Eyes by Miss Kim Carnes. So that's your top 10. And yeah.
And who of that? Were there any, Vincent? I think there were. Some of those top 10 finalists made it to the final round of Record of the Year in 1981. And they included that number 1 song. So Bette Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes is on that list. Christopher Cross, the theme from the movie Arthur, which I think we'll talk about during that, but is a really interesting movie to revisit. Just Like Starting Over, John Lennon made it to the top 5. Endless Love, we brought along Lionel Richie and Diana Ross to get that duet into this final round. And the 5th nominee, Just the Two of Us by Grover Washington and Bill Withers. So lots of love, lots of like hugs and kisses and sticking together kind of vibes in this year. But why don't we actually start with the first one that actually isn't the loviest of love songs. It's sort of about a vixen who I would say someone who sounds like I would love to have a drink with sometime is the woman who has Bette Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. So Vincent, would you mind queuing us up for a little Harlow Gold?
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
Her hair is Harlow gold, her lips sweet surprise, her hands are never cold, she's got Bette Davis eyes, she'll turn her music on you, you won't have to think twice, she's pure as New York snow, she got Bette Davis eyes. Tease you.
Should we start with the biggest tease of all on this podcast? So Vincent Stevens, what is your take on this little ditty that we recently learned, thank you, is a remake.
I'm less of a teaser than a pleaser. Okay,
Oh, well, that's
so this song was written by Jackie DeShannon and Donna Wise and was recorded in the mid 70s. So it had a very folky orientation. So I would say this version of the song is special because a lot of people don't realize it's a cover. And I think that's because it's actually better than a cover. It's an actual interpretation. So from the very beginning, when the song kicks off, it has this synthesizer line that's very iconic that sort of runs throughout the song, but it somehow manages to my ears to not sound cheesy. Like it doesn't sound like, oh, this is like a cheesy 80s synth pop song. Like I think it actually gives it this sort of atmosphere and it gives it this sort of signature sound. I think what this song does that's very interesting is it combines, Kim Carnes has this very sort of throaty, raspy voice, kind of similar to Bonnie Tyler or Rod Stewart. And it somehow works with this very airy synthesizer texture. There's this weird tension. I think the melody is very strong. The lyric is very vivid. Like there's something about the lyric that just stands out because it's describing this character. You know, it's telling you the story about this person who's this no nonsense person. Yeah, I mean, I think that this record is an undeniable, like it's one of those stone classics. Like when I think of early 1980s music, this is one of those songs that comes to mind. And it was a big hit. It was the number one for like 9 weeks or something. So it was hugely popular. And I don't know, there's something about this song that just is unlike anything else. So I'm here for it.
I love it. Speaking of being here for it, Susan, are you also? Will you co-sign that?
I'm here and I'm for it. To Vincent's point about coming of age before MTV in 1981, and I don't know who that applies to. But kind of my common theme through many of these songs is I forgot who sang all of these songs and realized it's because not having any other reference point. Like if the song came on the radio, which was likely in 1981 for me, not in control of those things, to happen like in the car or because someone else was playing music. So I know all of these songs and I have kind of these like strong attachments to them, but I don't have a lot of data to go on them with because of henceforth. So anyway, what I like about the song is just right out of the gate, it pulls me in with that like lush kind of growl to it. I will say I always, if we were on Jeopardy together as a team.
As we should be.
As we should be. Bring me on for the giggles because I'm not going to get us far. I would have told you that this song was sung. Am I pregnant? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm hitting the plunger on Jeopardy. I don't know if there's a plunger.
I was like, I'm not pregnant.
I'm pregnant though, so that's.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You're gonna be a father.
Again.
Is it a happy?
And thank you, Vincent. I always think that this song is sung by Rod Stewart. And so if we were pushed on trivia, I would be like, it's Rod Stewart, you guys, it's Rod Stewart. But then I hear it, I know it's not Rod Stewart. I'm like, wow, especially hearing that folksy version that you played for us, Vincent, like pure as New York snow. I love that because it's not. And then I'm like, why do all the boys think she's a spy? Like there's a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll going on in here. I assume that is what they're talking about. I love her growl, and I want to be honest, I think this is what I sound like when I sing. So I don't know if other people have an opinion. Yeah, I forgot how much I liked the song and how good it is. That's it. That's all I got.
If nothing else, Susan, your hair is also Harlow Gold. So, and you're a sweet surprise.
Isn't that a great line?
It is.
Harlow Gold.
Like, I think what this song does, it's so great, and it does to both of your points, like it just grabs you at note one and like keeps you interested. Like it never wears out its welcome. It never feels like it's too long. Like it just, And even though there's repetition in it, it's so pleasing and it's so engaging that you just like, I'm at least presently for the ride the entire time with this song. But it also doesn't hurt to, also both of your points, just how good the lyrics are. Like I think it's a masterful example of one line can tell an entire story. And if you craft that in the right way, and it doesn't have to be overly clever or it doesn't have to be overworked, but like her hair is Harlow Gold, just like that gives you like a million images to think about. Pure as New York Snow, like the play on that. And if you live in New York, you know exactly what that means. Like they just, everything about these lines just work in such great ways. So I will just say that. And, you know, having listened to these songs over and over again this past week, like this song has not worn out its welcome at all. Like I was so happy to revisit it, and it still sounds as fresh as the first time I hear it every time I hear this song. Like
As New York Snow.
As New York Snow. It is as fresh to New York Snow. I also think what's interesting, I like, Vincent, how you brought us in with the sort of era of MTV. Like this is one of the first videos I remember that set this template for billowing fabric and weird like lighting. Like there's like a million 80s videos that it looks like they just sort of like duct taped fabric up and got a wind machine and then like did extreme light and that was the video, or like a shadow and not like this video is like, it sets the template for every cheesy 80s music video. I think at some point like somebody turns around and their eyes are lit up, which then gets used again in that like Bonnie Tyler video for Total Eclipse of the Heart, where all those like
all the werewolves,
and aren't they like kids in like a school and they all have their eyes light up in such weird ways?
It's very cheesy.
Very cheesy, which then gets carried on to Belinda Carlisle's Heaven is a Place on Earth video. Like those kids have light up eyes. Like it's such a weird, what's the word, trope or template that gets started. Anyway, so how great that this is like, we can trace back the beginning of where that comes from. And this is one of the first that I recognize that way. Anyway, I love it. I love everything about this song. I love the way she sounds. I love the lyrics. And I think it's another testament that synth music does not have to feel disposable. It can be durable. It can be disposable in many ways, but this one, that little line, that little bass line and the clap, the hand clap in it, the synth tap clap, fabulous. And it just...
Also, my other note is what I read, I think in that Billboard book of #1 hits, is that they tried a bunch of different arrangements. And then once he got the right synth line, it was all basically done in a take. Like what you hear, that's the performance. It wasn't like all of these different pieces were, it was like, this is it. So there's something kind of magical about that. So
yeah. And it works, I think, because it repeats over and over and over again, but you just never, I don't know, for me, I never lost interest. It's just, it's so fresh throughout the whole song. It's really fabulous.
Sets a high bar.
It does set a high bar. So who's second? So the previous year's winner, Christopher Cross, who swept all the main categories in the 1980, given out in 81, I was gonna say Oscars, but Grammys, comes back into this category with Arthur's theme, The Best That You Can Do. So Vincent, do you mind?
Yeah,
putting the needle on that record.
I'm gonna get synced up.
While you're doing that, I'll just mention to the crowd, this song wins the Oscar for Best Original Song from a Movie in this particular year. So it comes in as a winner. Who knows if it is in this category, but.
Exactly. Here we go.
Is that the best? Is this the best that can be done? Vincent, maybe it is for you. Maybe is this the best that can happen?
Woo, okay, this song is one of those songs that's the dividing line between childhood and an adult sensibility. And what I mean by that is this song was on the radio constantly, like in the car, And so I associate this song with being in the car, like being in the back seat, hearing it on the radio, loving it because it's so familiar. And so
with or without a seatbelt?
With a seatbelt, of course. And so I think the dividing line for me is that the lyrics are unfortunately quite bad. And what I mean is there's a line where he says, Arthur, he does as he pleases. Like,
it's the worst.
There are all these non sequitur lines that don't make any narrative sense. So the problem is that even though this song won an Oscar, and Oscar songs are often standards, this song is almost impossible to cover because it's so specific to the movie. And that's actually kind of a big no-no in songwriting. Now, the movie Arthur is very funny. It's like Dudley Moore plays this, drunk, spoiled playboy, and then he realizes he needs to grow up. But the lyrics are so literal.
Susan, is this your life story?
Exactly. The lyrics are so literal that it just is silly. None of the joy, none of the energy of the movie really translates. The irony is that I think the music is actually good. The melody is strong. It's very easy to listen to. And the line, if you get caught between the moon and New York City, was written by Peter Allen years earlier, actually. He had been looking for a place for that to fit. So this song has 4 songwriters: Burt Bacharach, Peter Allen, Christopher Cross, Carol Bayer Sager. Why did it take 4 people to write a song with such clumsy, ridiculous lyrics is beyond me. So I think emotionally when I hear this, like, it's very sentimental and it brings back the feels from 1981. But intellectually, I'm like, in the end, it doesn't cut it. So I was very, I don't know. I mean, it kind of breaks my heart because you're like rooting for it. And then you're like, oh, those lyrics just kill it. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of someone I always root for, Susan Lombardi-Verticelli, would you mind building on that?
Give me an S. Give me a U. The reason this song has no like narrative thread through it is because I firmly believe that this song was never intended for the movie Arthur, and that an executive walked in one day and they were like, Chris, give me a verse and say the name Arthur. Great. And so that's what they did. Like, they threw
and then they did that.
And then they did a lot of coke.
It was 1981, right?
1981. It's like having a coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, people, get it together. What could possibly go wrong? I love this song until they're like Arthur's theme, and then it makes me angry because I'm like, this is not Arthur's theme. And as I told Vincent earlier this week, I always confuse, which is awful, the movie Arthur and the movie Kramer versus Kramer. And it's true. I should probably watch them back to back because they're not anything alike.
You'll
really
laugh and then you'll cry.
A lot.
They're both Oscar winners in the supporting categories.
There you go.
There
Thank you. Maybe that's what I was going through on my own Oscar lists. I don't know. The song makes me angry that it was made for the movie Arthur, because I don't think it has anything to do with it. But I do love the line, if you get caught between the moon and New York City. I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Totally.
Cute.
I agree with both of you. Like, I remember, like, listening to the song again, I was like, oh, I love it opens in this sort of, Burt Bacharach-y way, and he can write a great melody, and he's such a great musician. And then you get the first chorus or the first verse, which kind of is written in a pop songy, lusciousy kind of way. And then you get that great chorus, the line, and then you get this weird, that line, Vincent, that you said about Arthur. And then it's like, did someone just punch me in the face? Like, what happened? Like, this song just got terrible really fast.
Also, there's that line, there's that delay where he's like, he says like, he's just a boy. Like, there literally is no line. I'm like, did they just stop the song? I was like, that is the laziest lyric ever. He's just a boy. What?
It's so
Tell me something about a boy. Make it about a boy.
It does sound like it. I mean, both of you have hit on this already. Like, okay, there were 4 songwriters who had 4 pieces of a song that had nothing to do with this. And they, instead of coming together and writing together, it feels like someone took some double stick tape and like, okay, Carol, embarrassing. You're going to go in a room and leave, like, what is that? The Exquisite Corpse. This song was written sort of like leave a line or a chorus, and then you have to leave. You're out. You're done. And then Christopher Cross come in. You can't look at what she wrote, and then you leave something. And then that was the song. Like, they never revisited again.
Yeah.
Asked if it made any sense. Like, it's so, and it's maddening because you want it to be so much better than it is, and then it hits that
Yes.
middle part, and you're like, what? It's so terrible. And
Yeah.
it doesn't
Too
help
bad.
that his vocal delivery of that line, he like is embarrassed singing that. Like, you can tell, like, there's no oomph behind it. Like,
Yeah.
he becomes quieter in the song, and it's like he's trying to get out of the.
He's just
It's
just a
terrible.
boy.
I will say,
it's like he was reading the lyrics for the first time as he was singing. I was like, oh wait, this is terrible. Oh yeah, this is
I'm done. But I'm gonna win an Oscar. There is a weird, that whole, like, I think if you watch the Oscars from that year, and they talk about that line from Peter Allen, because they win and all 4 songwriters go up there, and they talk about how they couldn't figure
And
out
they
part
say,
of it. So
nice to meet you.
yeah, and they call Peter Allen, and they're like, do you got a line for us? And he gives them this, like, really great line, but it's not like he was really even in the room or writing it with them. He just gave them this line that saves the song. But
Yeah.
it has the potential to have a high bar, but it delivers a low bar with a great line in it. So I love that line.
Exactly.
Keep it going, line. Okay, so who's up third? So John Lennon, just like starting over. I don't know why we need the just like in parentheses, but just like starting over.
They're not really starting over, but
I guess so.
Starting over.
Well, I guess I read somewhere that there was a Dolly Parton song out at the same time that was also had the term starting over in it, and they didn't want people to get confused that they were the same song. So the record company made them put just like
Oh, I did not know that. All
at
right.
the beginning of it. So
Here we go.
there we go.
Somewhere alone. It's been too long since we took the time. No one's to blame. I know time flies so quickly. But when I see you, darling, it's like we both are falling in love again. It'll be just like starting.
Vincent, what will this song be like to you? Will it be like starting over? Will it be like pressing play? What is it?
So, tragically in 1981, John Lennon was murdered. And so this album was released posthumously. And I never heard the song when I was growing up. I first heard this song, oh God, probably in the mid 2000s when I started listening more to John Lennon and really became a big fan. Like, I feel that of all the Beatles who went solo, I feel that his career is the most interesting, and sadly short-lived. This song is such a sweet song. Like, it starts off in a ballad tempo and then it builds and it's got this kind of 50s rock and roll beat. There's nothing necessarily that innovative about it, but I think it's a very nice swan song. He loved Yoko Ono, and I think that she loved him. I just think they had such a nice relationship. So, I mean, I think it's one of these songs. I'm sure part of its nomination was that it was a sentimental favorite. But I will say, like, it's a very listenable song. It's very sweet, very tender. It's kind of fun and romantic in its own way. So I think compared to some other love songs in this group, it actually works because it feels sincere. It's easy to listen to. It's got a nice energy to it. So yeah, I think it's a nice, again, it's sad that John Lennon's not with us, but I think it's a nice kind of elegy, if you will.
Speaking about nice, the nicest girl I know. Nicest lady, because this was the year of songs with lady in the title for whatever reason. Lady.
Like many of the songs, I always forget that this is John Lennon. And I don't know if it's like, this is like a different John Lennon. I don't follow the Beatles or their careers that heavily. But I like, to Vincent's point, I love the way it songs. I love kind of like the doo-wop energy in it. I like the drums. I like the message. You know, I think it's important you're highlighting their love story, but how like actually their love story is like the punchline to so many jokes about bands breaking up and people being awful, but they loved each other. Yeah, I think this is cute. And I think kind of like the other Beatles song we heard in our last episode, you kind of realize why they stood out in this 1981 category, which also feels like it's clinging to 1977. This song comes in with something very different. It has a very different sound than the others. And although it kind of harkens back to that doo-woppy sound, it gives it a little fresh, a fresh angle on it.
Susan, you always have a fresh angle.
Yeah.
I like that. So the good part of this song, so I have this pause, I'm gonna get to the bad part in my mind. But I love that, like, we rarely get love songs about people who are in love and are like, have been together for a long time. Like, we don't celebrate like continuing love. Love songs often are like meeting for the first time, or if you ask, who sang "If I'm Ever in Your Arms Again"? Like, I've ruined something and now I would like to get it back.
Peabo Bryson.
Peabo Bryson. I love that song. He's so like I don't know why I'm saying this at this point, but he just like knocks that song out of
He
the park.
sings the H out of that song.
That
I think
song.
that's a Michael Masser song. Like,
I
it's
don't
got
know
that,
what it.
got that
Yeah, it
bit.
probably is because it's got that. But he just like he should, whatever year that song came out, he should have won everything. Anyway,
Are we saying
So-
H for heck, Vincent? So
What?
is H mean heck? He's saying the heck out of that song?
No, he sang the hell out of that song.
snap that into place. So I appreciate that there's song lyrically covers ground about people who are in love, have continued to be in love. They're finding new ways to be in. Like, I love all of that because we rarely get stories that deal in that way. So the other side, so when I was a kid, I'm gonna jump back in the time machine with you all for a moment. One of the things that the first movie I saw in the movie theater, believe it or not, and this was on the first run, was Grease. So I love that movie because of that, for all kinds of other reasons. I know it's problematic in other ways, but it did teach me that if I wanted to succeed in life, I needed to get a pair of leather pants and learn how to smoke. And that has never failed me. That has never let me down. So there's that element. But I remember our neighbor had the soundtrack. Her name was Heather. She was my age. We would hang out together, and I would go over to her house after school, and we would listen to records. Remember when you did that, listening to records? I remember when she first got the Grease soundtrack, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then she played it, and I was like, what are all these other songs? Like, I didn't remember. Like, they had like all of these songs that I later learned were like the songs that played in the background. I have a point in this. During the sock hop number, or during the sock hops, or whatever, when they're at the big dance. And there are all these sort of like kitschy, sort of cheesy rock and roll songs. They weren't the hand jive, but they were other ones. And they were just kind of like, I don't know, they seem generic and kitschy. And this song feels like it's fine. And then it gets this sort of generic and kitschy rock and roll-y kind of thing. And I was like, oh, this sounds like one of those, like, they didn't spend a lot of money to just buy the rights to this like knockoffy rock and roll-y kind of song to have, on the Grease soundtrack. And that's what this song is. And I don't know, I just think it's so clingy and cloying and kitschy. And I don't know. I'm ready for that not to be in songs at that point. So it's not very sophisticated in my mind. So I don't know. That's it. Down. Okay. So Speaking of sophisticated and not clinging or cloying in any way is, I don't mean to, dip a card here. Endless Love, Love That Never Ends, by Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, from the multi-Oscar winning film, Endless Love. Isn't this where I think, was this Brooke Shields' Oscar?
You
Be you in my life, the only thing that's right. My first love, your every breath that I take, your every step I make. And I want to share all my...
Okay, Vincent, share.
Oh God. Okay. So this song was also one of these songs that in the 80s was number one for like a stupendous amount of time. It was number one on like every chart. But you know what's funny? I don't remember this song growing up. The first time I ever remember hearing this song is when Luther Vandross and Mariah Carey remade it in 1994. So I remember hearing it and thinking, what is this again? And people are like, oh, the Lionel Richie, Diana Ross song. And I was like, I mean, Luther Vandross and Mariah Carey are probably the best singers of their generation, but I was like, even they couldn't salvage this. I think they do the best they can, but God. So I tried to listen to this with an open mind. And so I said, okay, I think at the beginning, it's sort of meant to capture that innocence of first love, that innocence of youth. You know, it's very delicate, it's very atmospheric. I actually think the song would make more sense if it was sung by teenagers. Like, if it was sung by two young, like imagine if like Michael Jackson and Stephanie Mills, who would have been probably in their 20s when this came out, that would have been interesting because it would have been more believable. At this point, Diana Ross and Lionel Richie are probably in their mid 30s. And so it just feels like the lyrics in me are very sophomoric. They're like high school poetry. It's like any song that has forever, you know, I mean, it's so sentimental, it's so schmaltzy. I also called it like climaxless. It has no build. It just is like this easy listening love song that just never rises. It just is kind of there. And to me, swelling strings is not an actual musical climax. That's just all atmosphere. So I don't know. I just find this song very sappy, very sentimental, very boring. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't move me. I just am like, oh, is this still on? So that's my take on Endless Love.
Susan, are you still on?
You're going to say,
Still...
speaking of climaxless. I mean, Vincent, once again, this is where our roads divide, go our separate ways.
Wow.
I wrote, man, Lionel, and then I was like, wow. And then Miss Ross comes in, and the thing that I love about this song is that it is effortless for them. Lean in, listener. This is what I love.
I want to know this. The secret. What's the secret I haven't learned yet about this song?
This song is effortless. They're just like, they could be sitting in their living room singing this song. He might be playing a guitar, not wearing shoes. I'm not sure. I just feel like it's, and maybe this speaks to a little bit of the cheese of it, and maybe why Vincent doesn't like it. But I feel like this is that surprise couple at karaoke who show up and everyone's, you know, doing a song from Grease, doing You're the One That I Want. And then they get up and they kill Endless Love. And everyone's like, okay, so
no one has to hear it again?
And I remember this song. I mean, you know, back in 1988, when I was chilling on the corners in South Philadelphia, like we listened to this song. This was kind of part of the repertoire. If you wanted to bring your A game, you brought this song. So yeah, I think their voices sound beautiful. I think them being in their 30s means that they're really young, have a lot to learn. Yeah, I like it.
I like the beginning of this song. I think it starts really well. Like it, you know, it's this lush strings. I know I agree with Vincent's point, it's not a climax, but it's got this sort of lovely string, and then there is a sweetness to their vocals. And then the most unromantic line I've ever heard in a song comes in, which is, Susan, will you just say to me, I love you? Just say it. I know it's you.
I
just
love
say
you.
it. Oh, I don't mind. Like what does that mean? Like, I don't mind? Like, I don't mind? Like, it's so, there's nothing like luscious or gorgeous or in love about like telling someone you don't like, Well, how is that stew I made? It's fine. Like, it's the worst lyric of all time. And maybe it was what was happening in 81, because there's also an Air Supply song around this time that is called Even the Nights Are Better.
Thank
Has
you.
anyone been in a relationship where like that's the revelation?
Like, should the morning be the best or the afternoon? Why the nights?
Right. Well, and
You
if you're
know
just
why?
well, how bad has this person's last relationships been if the nights have been that bad with somebody? Like,
Also, in that same song, there's a lyric about something cider, and then it's like beside you. Like, I'm like,
yeah,
terrible, lazy, uninspired lyric writer.
totally. Well, I think the Arthur song now, this one,
Oh, you know, even the nights are brighter when there's somebody there beside you. Terrible.
Terrible. So in my mind, they said, okay, we're going to spend all the money on the names. Like, here's a bunch of money for you, Diana. Here's a bunch of money for you, Lionel. And because of that, you have one take. We can't afford any more studio time, because at one point in this song, it's like they drop the sheet music and they just start going bum, bum, bum. Like, they don't know what to sing. Like, it's so crazy. And it sounds like they are just making it up, but they have to get it done because they only have that one take.
The one thing I will say about Luther and Mariah is that I think Luther and Mariah have very different vocal talents than Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, bless them. And so I think there's a reason why Luther and Mariah do a lot of riffing. I think the music is very lacking. And so they do some melodic improvisation to give it a little bit of oomph. And I'm sure Luther and Mariah will say they think it's a great song, but I'm like, this song is just, it's like made for music to me.
Yeah,
it's made for elevators and dentist lobbies.
But I do like that they were probably like bum, and then he starts bumming, and then
he wrote the song,
and they don't know what.
Yeah, he should know what's coming. He wrote it. I don't know.
Yeah, they sound lost, and then they bring up the whole "I don't mind" part all over again, and you're like, done. This is done. Yeah. Cut this song in half.
They're gonna be the endless love, and they're like, I don't mind that you're my endless love.
This conversation about this song is feeling endless. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. I don't mind. I don't mind if we're stuck together. That's.
I love you.
I love you too. I don't mind. Oh, I don't mind. Okay. Our final nominee from this year, just the two of us, Grover Washington, Bill Withers. Yeah. I think we need to hear some of that.
All right.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all that is, and it don't make no flowers grow. Good thing.
Well, there are three of us on this, so you know.
That was such a balm after listening to that track. Listen, Just the Two of Us is one of my favorite love songs of all time. When I was growing up and this song came on the radio, I can't even tell you how happy it made me, and it still fills me with joy. I actually have the Grover Washington album that this single is on, and it's almost all songs with him playing saxophone, though there is a Patti LaBelle song called The Best Is Yet to Come, not the version that people know, but a different version, where she sings the hell out of the song. It's incredible. This song reminds me of the conversation that we had about giving you the best that I got when we were in 1988. It's like an adult love song. I think it's sensuous, it's moody. The lyrics are, I think, intelligent and perceptive. I think, Bill Withers singing is very warm. And Grover Washington, is kind of the inventor of the kind of jazz fusion saxophone sound, but it's so good. I just think everything about this record is great. Like, it just, in terms of something being very effortless and very smooth, but never getting schmaltzy, never getting too sentimental. I just think it's a great song. And I mean, it's interesting because I know Will Smith sort of did his sort of hip hop interpretation of it. And even though I don't actually like his version, I think the fact that he adapted it is interesting because I don't think that rap people typically, do cover like love songs. Also, Johnny Mathis has an album where he sings a bunch of duets from I don't know years about maybe 2008, and he does a version of this. I forget who he duets with, but it's great. Like this song is a classic. It's a classic composition. I think the performance is excellent. Again, this song it just gives me the feels. Like to me, this is what 1981 was capable of. And in 1981, I couldn't tell you how Bill Withers looked or how Grover Washington looked. It didn't matter because the song was enough.
Totally. Susan?
Am I enough?
I don't mind.
Too much? Too much?
I don't mind.
Now we're getting into a very ugly area.
I love this song. I feel like this is like the ultimate groove song. I love that like bass to it. It's got a little bit of like 70s theme song coming out in it. But it doesn't matter. I feel like it stands the test of time. And I also feel like you can kind of place this song anywhere. I know I talk about this a lot, but like montage, like love song, dance, roller skating rink. I just feel like the song could really go anywhere. And I do shout out to the 215 and its son, Will Smith. You all know I will follow along and listen and watch anything that Will Smith does. So I also happen to love his using of the sample in his own song, Just the Two of Us, about his son.
Does he ever make a song without a big sample? Just curious. Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Well, I mean, we could invite Mr. Will Smith on here and he could talk with you about that a little bit. Maybe.
I keep turning him down. I forgot that you liked him that much. He keeps asking if he could join, and I'm like,
oh, did you tell him no? That's weird.
Countless times.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Like I've actually trained my children what to do if we see Will Smith outside of Philadelphia, and what do we do if we see Will Smith inside of Philadelphia. So there's a couple of different things.
I'm guessing you're going to see him in LA. Well,
yeah, that's why we had to come up with two different things to say.
Not Philadelphia. I think the Philly thing is over for him. Just saying. That's what I heard.
No. You know what they say? You can take the boy out of Philadelphia, but you can't take the Philadelphia out of the boy. No. West Philly goes strong. Anyway, that's not the point of this. Will Smith. Call me. We'll get you on here. I promise. I'm sorry, whatever Eric did. So I know I love this song. I think it's beautiful. I think it's so cool. I think it goes and you want to be on the journey with it. Done.
Like Betty Davis Eyes, the lyrics of this song are so amazing and evocative, and it sort of shows the difference between just like writing sort of a cliche thing, like endless love, just sort of these like, Vincent, to your point, sort of high school poetry versus like, how do I use words to create an image that then can help propel a storyline or an emotion forward? And I think this song does such a beautiful job, just from lyric one, the sandcastles and this, like all of that are just so lovely and beautiful. And then you marry that with the music of this song, which has this very, I don't know, it just pulls you in and makes you get all of those feelings because it's expertly crafted to understand how to do that. So I think that it's just such a strong, effectively written song. And then not only that, but you get this great vocal that Bill Withers always does, but like I don't think, it's not like he does everything the same, but my point is, he's able to match like melancholy with joy, with like, he just brings so many shades to his singing that I just always love. And then the sax just is, before the 80s, like run the sax into the ground, that happens. But this just, It's so beautiful and is Vincent, you sort of sets a template for 81 that then like people try to redo parts of this in ways that are sometimes successful and sometimes not. But it just is a testament to how great. I just love this song. It pulls me in at moment one. And like Bette Davis Eyes, like having heard it for, I think we should say out loud, this year happens 40 years ago. We're in the 40th anniversary for all of these songs,
God.
which is kind of astonishing to think about. But yeah, I've been hearing this song for 40 years and it never loses its like power. It's really a beautiful song and it wins in all of those different ways. So I appreciate it's both the way it's performed and the way it was crafted. It's just great. So for our listeners, you may have noticed we did not say at the beginning who won. So we're gonna try to guess and reveal. But first, before we do, who should have won out of these 5, and who should have been, standing, cheek to cheek in the lineup of Miss America candidates of the top 5? Who should have been up there holding hands together? So Vincent, why don't we start with you? Who should have been there, and then who do you think is the winner?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are 3 songs from 1981 that are also, I think, classics. Number 1, 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. It was nominated for Song of the Year, and she won 2 Grammys for country song and country female vocal performance. And it was also nominated for soundtrack. So like, it was successful, but I think that is a classic. That is such a great song. And she wrote that song because she was bored between all the different takes of the movie 9 to 5, which is her film debut, which is unbelievable. She's such an actress. So 9 to 5, obviously. Edge of 17 by Miss Stevie Nicks. Just like the white winged dove sings a song that keeps on singing, ooh, baby, ooh. Now, this song I think was only maybe a top 20 pop hit, but when I listen to it today, that guitar riff, it's just so strong. She also had another hit from that album, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, with Tom Petty, that I also think is really good. But Edge of 17 is great. Bootylicious by Destiny's Child is based off the guitar riff, just putting that out there. My third choice, Never Too Much by Luther Vandross. There is no song that combines like a love song and aspects of kind of funk and disco together better than the song. This song, again, is a perfect record. There's nothing about the lyric, the singing, or the arrangement that doesn't work. So those, I think, are 3 songs that are absolute winners. My winner, I had to choose between, so Endless Love, Schmaltzy, can't do it. Arthur's Team, I was rooting for it, but the lyric let me down. Just Like Starting Over, fun, tender, but it doesn't tell us anything new. So you got Just the Two of Us and Bette Davis Eyes. This was hard, but my choice is Bette Davis Eyes. I think that it is doing something new. It is doing something different. So Susan said, Just the Two of Us, it sounds a little bit like kind of a 70s hangover. There's a little bit of theme song to it. I get that. Bette Davis Eyes, there's nothing quite like it in synth pop. There's nothing like it. It sort of really sticks out. I think it is an achievement. It also, I think the lyric is really special. And as I mentioned before, if you listen to the original version performed by Jackie DeShannon, it's a good, solid record. It's got kind of this folk aspect to it, but Kim Carnes completely does something different with this song. And I think what she does is really unique. So Bette Davis for the win.
Okay. Susan. You forgot your lunch, Susan.
You forgot your lunch, Susan.
I don't mind that you forgot your lunch.
I love you.
I don't mind.
Here's like right out of the gate, aligning back with Dr. Stevens. Where is 9 to 5? Where is that song? Hearing that song and preparing for this episode, I often ask my smart speaker, which we are not endorsed by, to play like the top 100 or the Billboard top. And this song comes on and I'm like, how is this not in the mix? I also need to say right here, right now, Dolly Parton, like award-winning singer, songwriter, actress, saving the world from COVID, reading to children, like taking care of business. And what I need Miss Parton to do is open a school for wayward girls, because I feel like she's the one that could get through to like all those girls that have been like through hard times and have done some tough stuff. And I feel like
You
Miss
mean
Parton,
like Snooki?
I honestly, yes, and others like her. I feel like Miss Parton could like sit them down and be like, "Oh, sweetheart, we're not doing that," and they'd be like, "Okay." I think she can bring it. That's all I'm going to say. Also, in asking my smart speaker, who we're not endorsed by, to play the top 100, Celebration comes on. Where is Celebration?
It's
I'm
forever
telling
on a
you,
kid's birthday
it-
party theme. Right.
It is at every wedding. It is at every family reunion. We're going to dance to that every time it comes on. I cannot believe that's not here. And also, I have to say, my smart speaker, who I'm not endorsed by, every time that it would play this song, Celebration, it would play it 2 times in a row. So even my smart speaker wants me to hear this song more often.
Or maybe your smart speaker is not so smart.
Or maybe it's brilliant. Also, where are
bum,
bum bum
bum,
bum?
bum.
I have to say, like Dr. Stevens, this was hard, and it came down to Bette Davis's Eyes and Just the Two of Us. And my vote, I will not string you along, dear listener, goes to Bette Davis's Eyes.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know, it is a very in lockstep kind of week, especially about 9 to 5. Like, how is a 9 to 5 not? Like, it just makes no sense. And is there like one of the best lyrics ever, you know, tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen and pour myself a cup of ambition? I mean, like, I'm glad she was in the songwriter category, but like this, you know, I like you too. I listened to 81 this past week, and that song too is so durable. It sounds fresh. It speaks to where we are today still. Like, there's nothing dated feeling about that song. In some ways, that's quite scary and unfortunate, but in other ways speaks to just how well written and performed and produced and just delivered that song is. So how is that not here? It just really is confusing to me in so many ways. So there's another one. We were talking about it right before we started recording, but there's a George Benson song called "Turn Your Love Around" that just I just love. It just, you know, bounces along. It has some problematic lyrics when you think about today's world, but it's still a lovely song. And I will say it was very odd to me when I realized that we are 40 years into this year, or past this year, and I was able, because of listening to that 1981 soundtrack, that I was reminded that my grandmother in 1981 said, "Why did your uncle give this to me?" And she gave our family an 8-track player that included a bunch of 8-tracks, and one of them was Blondie's Auto America, or American, I don't remember the exact title. And on it is "The Tide is High." And I'd never heard that song before until like we got home, I plugged the 8-track player in and I popped in this Blondie 8-track, and "The Tide is High" is just, I know it's a remake, but it's just so great. And it also factors prominently into one of my favorite movies of all time called Longtime Companion. So if you are looking for something to sort of revisit the 80s, experience sort of the emergence and what happened at the early stages of the AIDS crisis, it's such an amazing movie to help experience and see that. And that song is in it. And I love "The Tide is High." It's really fabulous. 2 others, which I don't know if would be nominated, but just great songs. "Tempted" by Squeeze comes out this year, which is a great song. Isn't that amazing? And one of my favorites of all time, you 2 are probably gonna roll your eyes and laugh at me, but the original version, the first time by the Psychedelic Furs that "Pretty in Pink" comes out is 1981. And "Pretty in Pink," the opening guitar riff is one of my favorite songs of all time. I just love it. But that's also 40 years old this year. So, and Duran Duran, this is their first year, Girls on Film. Problematic, but also great first album. And just one other, "Kisses on My List" by our friends Hall & Oates.
You know what's funny? Like this is the year when they kind of have their big breakthrough, and they really. But the weird thing, I think that they write some of the catchiest, tightest, funkiest, best songs in pop music. But I always struggle with them because they don't write like big, important, serious songs. Like they don't write that kind of song. But their songs are so well crafted. So I'm always
Totally.
like, ooh, it's crazy to me. They've never been nominated for album or record of the year. But I'm always like, they have so many hits. I'm like, I wonder which song would grab people. So I don't know.
Yeah, like You Make My Dreams comes out this year. That's a great song. But it is, I that same thought, I thought, oh, which one did they win? When did they win record or song of the year? And then I looked back and I couldn't find it. I actually don't think they even win a group Grammy. Have they?
No,
I don't know if
they've never won a Grammy, but they are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they're the most popular duo in rock and roll history. So they win. And hey, I don't know if you ever watch an episode of Daryl's House. He's still doing those songs with musicians. And John Oates, he shaved off the mustache. He puts out solo albums every once in a while. So they're here.
There you go. Well,
Eric,
I will end this on one other note about 1981, speaking of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because the Go-Go's are finally nominated. I love the Go-Go's, or they're on the list of potentials. So they're finally, and this is the year that Our Lips Are Sealed, which is a really great, well-crafted pop song, comes out. So yeah. Vince, Susan, you were going to say something and I interrupted you.
well, I was going to say that your talk of 8-track reminded me that my cousins and my first cousins, we would gather at my Nona and Grandpa's house, and they had a large piece of furniture that was really a record player. And we would open it up. It also stored all the good china that we weren't allowed to touch or eat off of. And we would put on the 45 of Celebration and pump it and like run through the house.
That song, like everybody loves Celebration, right? Grandparents.
Woo!
Totally.
Made for birthday parties, weddings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, finding out your pregnancy test is negative, whatever. It's there. Do I think it's record of the year material? No. But do I think it's fun? Yes.
Durability. Okay, so also, it came down to those two songs for me as well. Betty Davis Eyes in one corner and Just the Two of Us in the other. And such great, like what a bounty of fabulousness between these two songs together. So bump, 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 bump. Okay, I'm gonna agree with you. Betty Davis Eyes is just a song that is amazing and fabulous. And did it win that year? So can one of you cue up a drum roll, have a drum roll? Susan, you're good at drum rolls. Okay, the winner in 1981 is Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes. So had we been voting that year, we would have picked the winner. So.
And song of the year as well.
Yeah, so Jackie DeShannon gets to have a Grammy as well for writing that.
Jackie DeShannon, who should also be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She wrote When You Walk in the Room, Needles and Pins, Put a Little Love in Your Heart.
I know she wrote Needles and
Pins. I mean, those three songs plus this song alone, she should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just putting that out there. Listen and respect women, America. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is always underrepresented women, by the way. That's a different podcast.
In a line with America, then, I guess.
Well, exactly. Fight the patriarchy.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been yet another episode of Singular, where we, of course, discuss record of the year and all of our love for you, the listener. Don't forget to click like and subscribe down below so you can get all the notifications from our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Podcast Singular, and of course on Facebook at Pod Singular. From Dr. Stevens, Eric, and myself, it's been a lovely day spending this day filled with love and more with you. And remember,
it's an honor.
It's an honor to be nominated.
Nominated.
Ciao.
Ciao.